Utah is traveling to Arizona State. Is Cam Rising playing? I have zero clue. I'm gonna assume no, because that's what I've learned when we're looking at Utah and injury reports. Kyle Whittingham just it's like, yeah, there's a possibility. There's always a possibility. Loves keeping those cards close to his chest. If he was in the SEC, he would not be able to handle himself with those injury reports that he has to put out. But yeah, I mean, Utah, they're 6.5 point favorites here on the road. Arizona State's played some surprisingly good football this year. Sam Leavitt, I think, has been better than anticipated, at least from what I expected. Is Isaac Wilson that good? I'm not really inclined to believe so. I think he can win you football games, though, because the rest of this Utah team is pretty dang talented. So, what are your thoughts on this game, and what are your thoughts on the coaching matchup here?
Yeah, definitely super interesting. Obviously, a team in Arizona State who's kind of surprised some people early on. Obviously, big win over Mississippi State and Texas Tech in the out of conference, and followed that up a couple weeks later, beating Kansas in the Big 12 to get their first Big 12 win of the year or of their career, actually. Obviously, big for our guy there, Kenny Dillingham, going against the old head there in Whittington there, Kyle Whittington. Big news here for Arizona State, though. Maybe not so injury report, but suspension in terms of, what happened last game, at the end of last game, right? Keyshawn Elliott, Clayton Smith, they're both gone. Big members of that front seven. And if a guy like Cam Rising's not going to play, those are guys that are going to have to step up or would have to step up to stop the run, to stop Isaac Wilson and maybe stifle that Utah offense, similar to Arizona's interstate rival Arizona did a couple weeks ago. And for that reason, I like Utah, right, -6.5 here, even if Isaac Wilson goes. I think they've got some playmakers on the outside. I think with those suspensions and the way Utah can move the football, even without Cam Rising, I think they still get it done. And that defense is still very good. And Sam Leavitt is no Fafita. There's no Ted McMillan here to bail them out. Yeah, I like Utah here on the road, kind of getting right. Eventually, kind of buying their time, waiting for hopefully Cam Rising to get healthy, and they can really make their run in the Big 12.
Yeah, I think I'm going to ride with you here. I like Utah -6.5. However, I do think Arizona State's their front seven has impressed me. They lost some key pieces there in the offseason and wasn't sure if they were going to have the bodies to match up with a team like Utah. But I I don't know. I've been somewhat impressed. Um, Not sure. I don't really love their secondary. I don't know if Isaac Wilson would be able to, take advantage of that. If Cam Rising does play, I think this is an easy, -6.5. I think Cam Rising is worth that many points. So I'm with you. I like Utah on this spot, -6.5. The question is what? Like Utah at home doesn't lose this game, right? But on the road, I feel like this is a spot where Utah can lose, right? And here's the thing: you have to win this game for Utah. If your hopes are to win the college football playoff or make it to the college football playoffs, win the Big 12, which this team is flat out good enough to do, and their schedule also allows for that to happen. And we've seen other teams in the Big 12 be very vulnerable here. I mean, you got Texas Tech is undefeated in the Big 12 right now. I like Utah to win the Big 12 and go to the college football playoffs, but you need Cam Rising. Is this a spot here that you could see Utah potentially dropping because of subpar quarterback play and Isaac Wilson and maybe Samuel getting a little bit loose there in the pocket?
Absolutely. And also Cam Scadaboo. I don't know how it's been this long until we brought him up. He is one of the better players in college football, without a doubt. What he can do, not only running the football, but catching the ball out of the backfield, creating plays, making it easy for a guy like Leavitt at home to get settled in. And we love Kenny Dillingham and what he does for his quarterbacks to put them in best opportunities against obviously teams with potentially more talent than they have. I mean, what Arizona did is they just made plays like when they needed to beat Utah, right, on the road. That was big time. It wasn't every play, it wasn't super efficient, it wasn't every drive, but certain times in the game when they needed a play, right, whether it was a turnover or whether it was a third down or a long touchdown response, whatever it was, they made the plays. And it worries me that I don't know if Arizona State can like do that, if I trust them to do that in this game. And also Utah is coming off of a bye, right? They did have a chance to self scout. They did have a chance to get right, not only healthy with hopefully Isaac Wilson getting a little bit more healthy, and same with Cam Rising, but also just kind of get fresh and let that bad taste of a loss kind of sit in their mouth all bye week, all week this preparation week, and then really get after it. Once they do get into the game, and it's a Friday night game too. So not only is it a short week turnaround for Arizona State, who had to play Kansas last week, but it's also Utah was able to sit there and kind of relax and kind of get ready for it, even though they are traveling on the road.
And you look at if you're trying to look at an angle and you're trying to box score snipe this, and you're like, okay, Arizona State's really good against the run. You're like, oh my gosh, Utah. That's kind of how their offense has been effective. I'm sure they have 13 passing touchdowns, but they're averaging almost 5 yards a carry on the ground. And Micah Bernard's just been such a key weapon in that for Utah in their offense. But if you look at Arizona State, like some of these stats are a little bit inflated by some of the teams with it. Like Mississippi State, can't run the ball. Okay, your run defense is going to look good against a team like Mississippi State. But I look at a game like Kansas, like Hishaw and Neal combined for 5 yards a carry. Taj Brooks ran for 117 yards, albeit it wasn't all that efficient, but it was there. I I think this team's gettable on the ground. I think this team's gettable on the ground. I just think it's Utah all the way here. I don't feel like I can justify. I could justify picking Arizona State, but for me, it's hard. So I think Utah does need to control the ball and convert on third downs, which they haven't done all year, by the way. They need to do that. Control this game.
Yeah, and real quick to add that too, you need positive game script and drive script, like play script for Arizona State, like you said, run the ball, be ahead of the chains, have easy third downs, and then also not being able to force to play from behind, because if you do that against that front of Utah and that defense, it can get really hard for Leave It though. I will give him a ton of credit though. Last week we saw him really light it up, and the offense as a whole lighted up in that second half after he threw a red zone interception, right? That would have taken the lead, or at least nonetheless kicked a field goal to tie the football game. But he comes back and responds 3 straight touchdown winning drives, including the game winner. Yeah, got to give him a ton of credit. I will say I've been, like you said, pleasantly surprised with his development and his play so far with Kenny Dillingham and Arizona State.